Good.
Tell me when they get their act together.
Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach, held Tuesday, January 17th, 2023, at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Postoli.
Here.
Councilmember Lester. Here. Councilmember Bendo.
Present.
Vice President Treston.
Here.
President McGinnis.
Here.
Let the record indicate the presence of Acting City Manager Ron Walsh and Corporation Counsel Richard Berrios. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Acting City Manager Walsh, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second meeting of January of the Long Beach City Council. At this time, I move to step down as president and nominate John Bendo as president. Do I have a second?
I second.
I second.
Voting on the motion. Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes, and I would like to say something. Karen, you've been an amazing person this last year. I have never seen anyone work as hard on this, any city council I have observed over all these years. And I want to thank you for all the work. And if you think it's going to get any easier, it's not.
Sorry, was that a yes?
Oh, that's a yes, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so in the words of that great American philosopher Yogi Berra, it's deja vu all over again. I just want to say, and Roy kind of started it, the work that Karen has done under her time as president. I know most people think this is a part-time job, being a council person. It's what the council members make of it, and this council puts in a lot of hours. And being president is just that on steroids. And Karen was selfless with her time. She put in enormous hours, and many of the accomplishments we have are because of her efforts, the time she put in. So I know I want to thank Karen deeply from the bottom of my heart, because we're in a better place because of the work that she did. So with that, we'll move on to the city manager's report.
Good evening, everybody. At the risk of being repetitive, I too want to thank Karen for the service. I've been here for 2 years. Karen's been on the council my entire time. We've worked together on a lot of different issues. I'm sure that work's going to continue as we move forward here as a city and as my role here gets more defined. But I've learned a lot. One of the most dedicated and honest people that I've met. So I want to say thank you too. So to begin the city manager's report today, first thing I want to do is just sort of introduce myself more officially to the city. I've been here for 2 years. I've been in public service for around 35 years. I started my public service as a federal agent with the federal government. I did that for a couple of years, and then I became a New York City police officer. Did that a few years. Went to Nassau County, and I was there for 29 years, and I've been here now in Long Beach for 2. I've said it to many of you in the room before, but I've also served 9 years on the Locust Valley Central School District Board of Education. I was on the Nassau-Suffolk Board of Education, which represented the entirety of Long Island and all the school districts on the island. I've dedicated my life to public service. I'm proud of the accomplishments that I've made, and I consider it an honor that the council has the confidence in me to help guide the city as it moves forward in its, not only in the selection of the next permanent city manager, but also in trying to move the ball forward every day. I'm not taking, and I had conversation with the council, this job to keep my fingers, so to speak, in the dike and keep the water from leaking out. I have an aggressive personality when it comes to doing things that make a difference and make the world a better place. I also have a very clear mindset as to what my responsibilities are. And I want to say this. I took an oath. Every single one of us in this room who serves here took an oath. And that oath is with me every single day. I want to uphold not only the Constitution of this country and of this state, but the Charter and Code of Ordinances of this city. And I work for every single person in this room. And I'm committed to that. And I'm committed to being more open and honest and being inclusive of every single person in this room. I have no favorites, but every one of you have a friend in government. And if you need something, please come forward, let us know, and we will work towards trying to come to some sort of resolution. It may not be exactly what you want, but it will most certainly be addressed. With that, I want to review a few things. I want to start my first meeting with reviewing some of the questions that I was able to at least remember or get from some of the people who took some notes, and start answering some of the questions that the public has posed, at least giving you some further information. First thing I want to talk about is the status of the comprehensive plan. We have a draft comprehensive plan. We had a meeting on that draft comprehensive plan in our last working session. A comprehensive plan is not what many of you are thinking when you hear the word comprehensive, and that will be more defined when we make our presentation. A comprehensive plan means we are looking at the city comprehensively, meaning from one end to the other, and how things start to mesh together. It is not a point-by-point way of addressing every issue. It's not the specific plans. It's aspirational goals, if you will. So a common type of thing that you might say is to build to create a walkable downtown. It doesn't say that we're going to put sidewalks and this and that and a trolley. It means that's the goal. Your master plan that comes after this starts to then look at the steps that everything needs to take and the vision setting and everything else. Your comprehensive plan sets an idea for a vision. Your master plan will then give you specific steps. And then your project plans, what each one of those specific steps needs to actually get done. So we're on the verge of bringing out our comprehensive plan. We'll have some discussions on that with the public, some public input. Our Patty Bourne is going to be working towards scheduling some meetings, and we are interested in what the city would have to say about this as well. That was a question that was asked. The sewer plant conversion. Many people have asked that. So because things were delayed, because it's a county project, there's more money that's needed, but it's all going to be reimbursed. So we're in the process right now of redefining the bonds that are needed, and then we're going to put them out. We're going to get the money, and we're going to move that project forward. I assure you that the smell down here will eventually go away, and our sewage treatment plant will be closed, and it will be a pumping station. Let me see, the design plan for the water distribution down in the walks. So there's some questions about that. We've been able to actually get some money from Chuck Schumer's office. We got $1 million in grant money to start that project off. That plant is going to, the replacement of those 100-year-old pipes is going to start taking place probably the spring of next year. We need to do some heavy borrowing to complete that. Probably another $3 or $4 million that will be put into the capital project lines. Okay, but that is something that we're working towards. It has not been forgotten, and you should know that we're actually moving in that direction. The proposed parking plan. No, it's not dead. Yes, eventually we're going to have parking meters. We're working very diligently to try and figure out the best way to bring that in. We're working with our businesses, and we've sought input, and we're at the point now where we think we're going to be bringing this up to the council within probably the next 30 days or so for them to consider a vote on it. So that's been moving forward. There's been talk about the job postings and jobs in the city. So these things are not simple issues. When you talk about a deputy city manager, yeah, that's a great idea, but there are a lot of rules in New York, and they're not all just in Long Beach. We have to work with the state to either approve the position of a deputy city manager and how that's defined. Meaning, it could be an exempt position, it could be a non-competitive position, or it could be a union-type position. All of those things are the types of information that we need to get input back from the state. We're going to have to pass amendments to the charter for certain things, and then we get approval or disapproval or advice from the state to move that forward. I don't want to pretend that I'm an expert on it. We have experts in-house that are actually working on this and trying to get a clear path so that we can start some of the hiring, so that we can expand the way we handle the issues in the city. This city right now, so you know, our government is very broad, but it is very thin. We have one person, doing jobs with no backup, and sometimes that one person is not enough. We need to address those situations and ensure that every one of the issues that is important to this city gets addressed properly. These are some of the things that we're working on, and I've been trying to move forward as I've been here already. The other thing is I spoke to Joe Fabrizio today about it, and we, actually at the time of the flood that we had on December 23rd. And I wanted to know why, and Joe wanted to know why. No, the pumping station did not fail. The pumping station on Tennessee worked. It worked as planned. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. But ladies and gentlemen, if you take a pump and you throw it in the middle of Reynolds Channel and you pump the water onto a beach, you're not going to empty Reynolds Channel. So what happened there is we think some of our flex valves are older, and we think some of them might have some issues. So we're putting out an RFP right now. By the way, we put out 2 RFPs in the past to have these things evaluated and looked at, and nobody responded. So now what we're going to do, and that's a factor of the cost of these particular items in this space. Nobody wants to guarantee a price. So we've replaced about 50% of these flex tide valves, these tide flex valves already in the city. We're going to start putting out an RFP to start dealing with the rest of them so that conditions like that don't necessarily inundate our city again the way it's happened. We didn't like it, you didn't like it, and we're going to work towards trying to make it as the best that we can, living on a barrier island surrounded by water. You have to remember, too, that was a 5-foot tide with 3-foot storm surge. We had 8 feet of water. So we did better than other times. We didn't do as good as we want to do, and that's something that we're working on. The other thing, question came up about the work that we did outside here, right by City Hall, by the train station, the new crosswalk and the lights, and whether or not it was finished. No, it's not finished. Incomplete. We have some plantings that are going to be done. There's some movement of some bike racks that still has to be done, and the spots, if you can imagine or understand, from the crosswalk to Park Avenue, are going to be charging spots for electric vehicles. And we have right now 6 sealed bids that have come in. We will be opening those bids when we appoint the appropriate number of people to an evaluation committee to look at these bids and then finally award the bid to the most responsible bidder and the greatest benefit to the city. We are looking and we are trying and we are hoping that those bids come in at 0 cost and should be 0 cost to the city. Trying to think if I have anything else here. Not that, I'm going to get questions on this eventually. Yeah, the manhole cover down on Indiana Avenue and Park Avenue is sinking. We're trying to figure out how and why. We've put cameras down there. We've done a whole bunch of work down there. It's an inconvenience to everybody, and we're not happy about it either. So we're putting out an RFP now to reconstruct that entire manhole cover because it was covered over and buried. It's leaking for some reason. The material around it is sinking. We're going to fix it, and we're going to move forward. The Roosevelt sewer job also on between Chester and Park, that has been completed, right, Joe?
Should have been completed today.
Right.
Restoration will be done in the next week or so.
Right. So that restoration is taking place. We should be in good shape there, and that'll help ease some of our traffic concerns as well. So at this time, I would like to ask Ina Resnick. I'm sorry, hold on. There's been also questions, and I was just reminded about the beach pass theft. So I'd like to offer a little bit of clarity on that. I'm in a little bit of a unique position because I also happen to be your commissioner of police, right? So we turned that entire investigation over to the district attorney's office. It is an active investigation. It's not dormant, it's not like nothing's happening. It was a burglary. That's what it was. It was bad people doing bad things that took money. I assure you that we have put protections in place that money will not be left anywhere ever again that can be stolen that's in an unsecure area in this city. That trailer, to me, was not really considered secure. That's been fixed. And if it does happen again, heads will roll because it can't happen again. We are more responsible and more professional than that. It was a mistake that the money was left there. We own it, and we have to move on with it. I'd like to call now Ms. Ina Resnick up, because the last meeting that we had a question posed to us, and they weren't wrong. It was from Mr. Keene, and I don't know if Mr. Keene is here, in that we haven't had an update with regards to our long-term debt in the city. So, trying to be as transparent as possible and as open as possible, here, Ms. Resnick will be giving you an overview of our long-term debt and where we stand in the city so that everybody has a good understanding of this and it's not some sort of a mystery.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Dave. So to address this long-term debt-related questions that were raised last meeting, I put together some slides. This way we can put the slides on the city's transparency portal, and they will be available there for everybody's future review, and if you have any questions or need more understanding about it. Today's presentation is going to be a little bit long, but it's kind of unavoidable as it's not possible to address long-term debt as a single concept. There are a lot of components that go into the long-term debt, and I will try to address each one of them separately and the fluctuations in each one of them separately, as well as how any city administration at any given time can impact those fluctuations. So another thing I wanted to mention is that the numbers that were used last meeting, about $500 million, number of the long-term liabilities, that number has been taken from the city's audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended 6/30/2021. And that's the last year for which we have fully audited financial statements. So that's the one that I'm going to be using, the numbers I'm going to be using as an example. And let's go through the components of long-term debt. So there are several. There is general obligation bonds. And Dave, go to the next slide, please. And then one more. Okay, so general obligation bonds. It's a debt, but it's a very benign concept because the city borrows money in order to acquire land or equipment or construct buildings and improvements. This borrowing enables the cost of these capital assets to be borne by both present and future residents of the city who will be enjoying the use of those improvements or new infrastructure. So that's all good. Next. Mostly it's good. I'll talk about the component of that's not so benign. Capital leases. Capital leases, that liability pertains to the city's lease agreements to finance acquisition of equipment purchases. Mostly it's vehicles. We have capital lease liability for the certain fire truck and dump trucks and pickup trucks, and we evaluate usually what's the best way of financing such purchases, either through bonding or through leasing. And there are some leases that are on the books right now. Next one. Pension-related debt. So, as you're aware, there are multiple unions that have bargaining agreements with the city, and the city participates in two multiple employee cost-sharing pension plans. So, one of those pension plans, it's for the full-time. It's for the police and firefighters. For the it's called PFRS. The plan is handled in Albany by the New York State Comptroller DiNapoli, who directs the investments of the funds that are deposited in these pension systems. All other full-time employees of the city participate in what's called employee retirement system, also under the supervision of the New York State Comptroller. So city contributes into those pension systems based on the actuarial valuations, and at some times when economy is not that great, let's say, the state controller allows municipalities, they pass the law to allow municipalities to defer, to go on a payment plan, right? So if, for example, we owed $5 million in 2012 to contribute for those two pension systems, and the city, let's say, didn't have the money, or it was more than the city, not just city of Long Beach, the legislation goes across the state, providing for this deferral of the payment into the system. So in years 12, 13, 14, and 15, state issued the legislation that allowed municipalities in the state to go on a payment plan. So whatever installments we still have left on that payment plan is part of our long-term liability. That next one, please. Proportionate share of the net pension liability of the system. So that's actuarially determined number. That's when actuaries actually evaluate how assets for all the billions of assets that the state has for the retirees and potential retirees, future retirees, compared to the assets that are in the investment of the plan. And they say these plans are very well funded. So we only have about $5 million of the future liability on those funds. And both funds, both pension systems are probably best funded systems in the country. So that's actuarially determined. Next one. Accrued liabilities, compensated absences. The liability for vested or accumulated vacation and sick leave is recorded as current and non-current obligation in the government-wide financial statements. And that's basically as employees of the city accrue sick time, vacation time, and any unused sick and vacation time. Not any, there is certain rules and percentages, but according to the bargaining agreements, again, that whatever is owed to the city employees, whatever is not used during the year, rolls into the next year, and then upon retirement, city pays it out. I'm sure that most are aware of the separation payments, right? The city used to pay out millions of dollars just for the police retirement. Some of them were over $600,000. I'll go back to it when we're going through the numbers on the table. So that compensated absences category pertain to the total liability that the city estimates will be paid out for the current employees of the city who have monies due to them. Next one, please. Okay, length of service award program, abbreviated as a LOSAP. We provide like a pension-like benefit to the volunteer firefighters. That liability is also actuarially determined. We have a trustee who manages the assets, and they compare assets again to the liabilities, and they determine how much we owe to the plan. That's it, or more. Other post-employment benefits. So it's great working for this city. Well, as you retire, well, it's majority of municipalities in the state of New York and other states provide what's called post-retirement benefits. So basically, as employees retire, they can still be enjoying the benefits of the health insurance. Certain rules, and then at a certain age, people reach their Medicare eligible status, where Medicare becomes primary and this plan becomes secondary, but we calculate, the city recognizes these liabilities. And it's also actually determined. Next one. That's it? Go back to the table, please, on page 2. Okay, so I wanted to make it, to go over these categories so it will be clear how we have $500 million, almost $500 million, or had almost $500 million at the end of fiscal year 2020. That number went down to under $400,000 at the end of fiscal year 2021. So, bonds payable. And I think that we've talked a little bit about the bonds payable and the fact that city in this fiscal year budget that we're in right now, fiscal year 2023, was the first year in, I'll tell you, probably 10 years that the city did not, 10 years, that the city did not borrow for the separation pay. So included in this number,
Can you repeat that again?
we did not borrow for the first year. And that's a big undertaking because it's swallowing a very, very bitter pill, right? So you have to add, in 1 year, you have to add whatever the value of that separation pay, and it's usually between $2.5 and $3 million, and you have to add it to your budget. So I think it's, and I'm not a politician, but politically it's probably a very brave and very straightforward decision, because in the past 10 years, city would just postpone it and just let future generations pay for that. It's sort of, to me, if I were to make an analogy, it's like going on a vacation and letting my grandchildren pay for it. So, yeah, that was the total that was borrowed on separation pay by the city is almost $24 million. The total of the separation pay outstanding included in this 150 million is 16 million. So it's over 14% of this total is due for the separation pay. And remember how I said that it's mostly benign? Because we borrow for what? To purchase land, to purchase assets, to work on improvements. That's something that the future generations will benefit from. Separation pay, there is no benefit. So that was actually something that Moody's took into consideration when they rated us and when they brought us up by 2 notches in their rating. That went into their rating, because it speaks not only about it speaks about the governance, and it speaks about the way that the city budgets, right? So next category there, I hope that I addressed this bonds, the bonds payable category, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end of this. Capital leases, you could see that the liability had decreased because there was more paid on the leases than the new leases that the city entered into. Pension-related debt, that remember when I spoke about the years 12, 13, 14, and 15, that the state allowed us to go on a payment plan. So we still have 2.452 million to pay on that payment plan, and city is paying it down. But for something like this category, city doesn't really have much flexibility with that, unlike, let's say, bonds payable, that we were able to move away from borrowing for the separation. The next category is the net pension liability. That's total actuarially determined. It can go by hundreds of millions of dollars up and down, and it has to do with the assumptions that actuaries use on one hand. On another hand, also the way that the market, how good the market is at the time that they value assets. So it's usually a little bit on the lag. So for like fiscal year 2022, this liability will go down because markets were not in a bad position when the valuation took place. So it's comparing assets to the liabilities of the plan, and if there is more liabilities than the assets, we have to recognize portion of it, whatever is attributable to the city, that whole big pot of money that the state manages. That's our portion, a little bit under $5 million. So just to put it in perspective, there is $260 million at the state that is an asset attributable to the city, right? So the total liability is somewhat around $265 million. Compensated absences, $30 million. That number had been managed. And you could see that the reductions are almost $2 million higher than the additions. A lot had to do with the fact that the city had entered into arbitration agreement with the PBA, and for the new retirements after 2020, they're capped at $275,000. So it becomes manageable for the city to not borrow, and it also reduces this liability. Accrued payroll has to do with what people earn in their overtime, but choose not to cash out right away. There are certain balances that they can carry forward as sort of, a bank. Other is $350,000. Immaterial, just briefly, it's the RISA lawsuit, I think, between the municipalities in a state and the counties in a state, where the counties counties always paid for their municipalities' share of the community colleges chargebacks for the students who go from the city of Long Beach and they go to community colleges in other counties of the state. county used to pay for it. Starting with 2010, let's say, they stopped doing that. So for a certain period of time, for 1 year, we're paying now. The city is paying for all the students from the residents of the city of Long Beach that go and they study in the Suffolk Community College, in the city community colleges, and the other community colleges of the state. They charge our county treasurer, and they pass on those charges to the municipalities. So that's our share. The claims and judgments of about $92 million, that includes, majority of it is what we owed at that point to Haberman at the time that the financials were issued. So that number, when you're going to be looking at this year financial statements, you will see that the amount had moved. Now it's not in the claims and judgments category. Now we borrowed for it, so it's in the bonds payable. It's going to be reflected in that first line, and it will increase. I'll skip a couple of categories. LOSAB, that $4.2 million is for the volunteer firefighters, for the pension-like program for them, actuarially determined, and the other post-employment retirement benefits is $142 million, actuarially determined, and has to do with the health benefits after people retire. So I highlighted in red those categories where I feel city has a discretion, right? So that are not actuarially determined, and we are not like powerless against those categories, but whatever we can manage, I think this is indicative of the way it was managed, and it demonstrates that the city had managed it well. So, any questions you have, I'll be happy to answer.
Yes, sure. I'm sorry.
A couple of questions, Ina. First of all, I noticed that there's 0 for new additions. Can you put that back up, please? Thank you. There's 0 additions over the year between 2020 and 2021 for tax certiorari and grievances payable, and 0 for claims and judgments payable. And yet, you know, we're constantly having to settle claims and judgments and constantly having to settle certiorarities. Were they just not included, or was that an actual year where there were none?
So this is, for these two categories, the amounts shown are actually net amounts, right? So you will see that, like, for example, for claims and judgments, the reduction is $57 million. It does not mean that we had paid $57 million.
No, I know, but it says new issues, additions. And every year we get sued, and every year, you know, not big ones, but every year we settle them. Every year we have tax certiorarities. I'm just wondering, you know, I don't remember any year where there have been none whatsoever.
Okay. So the $57 million
No, I'm not
is the
talking-
reduction of the long term.
Right,
I'm
not
sorry.
talking, I'm talking about the zeros, you know, the zeros.
This is just the long-term liability. The current year expenses are charged to our operating budgets.
Okay, so the tax certiorari is the same thing, charged to the operating. So the 0 isn't actually, it just was charged to another budget.
It's charged to the
Yeah.
governmental funds,
Okay.
yes.
And the other question, and this I didn't understand, the net pension liability went down from 34 million to 29, went down by 29 million. Can you explain that again? Because I was not clear on that.
Majority of that reduction has to do with how well markets did during the year before. So the value of the underlying assets in the plan had increased drastically. And therefore, the assets went up, the net liability went down.
So how does that bode for the future now with the stock market?
You just answered your question.
So
It's
we'll
again,
be
it's on
back
a
up
lag. It's on a lag. Yes, it fluctuates, but this is not something that we can address. It's not in our control.
So I want to just chime in there for a second too, Ina. Just for the benefit of everybody in the audience, when Ina says something that things are actuarial, basically everything in black, not in red, it means that it's a projection by people who are in the financial world. These numbers can go up and down based on many, many factors. I'll give you a very, very dramatic example. The largest one on here, Ina, correct me if I'm wrong, the 92 million also has to do with our insurance and the future liability of our insurances as well.
$92 million.
The 149,641, 149 million.
Oh,
And other,
which line?
that's claims, the claims line.
Claims and judgment payables, that's actually, it's a projection, but it's not actuarially determined because it has to do with the lawsuits and claims against us.
Ina and I spent a couple of hours in the office going over the budget and the financials and the projections so that I can get my head wrapped around how could we possibly owe $396 million, right? And these actuarial projections, one of them in there says, this is our future pension contributions. This is our future liabilities when it comes to our medical expenses. Well, in the most extreme, if Long Beach ceased to exist, that number goes to zero. Because the people that were getting these things are no longer here, and the liability goes away. So it really, truly fluctuates depending on how long people live, how many dependents they have, how much the cost of medical insurance or the pension goes up. I mean, our state comptroller did a phenomenal job in doing investments in a down year to make our pension payments this year even lower than last year. That's why that number went down. So it's everything. It's almost like a term of art or a document of art. As much as people like to try to simplify it as, you have a dollar come in, you have a dollar go out. Yeah, that's what the paper says, but what affects those dollars is well beyond the control of the city of Long Beach to be able to say in a definitive term what we owe. That number, I can promise you, is different today if these numbers are run today than it was the day she put this together.
But Ron, when you say the numbers, these are not the numbers because they change constantly. A balance on June 30th, 2021, that would not change or that would change?
That would not change.
That would, the balance,
Okay.
when it was written
Yes.
and defined, is exactly
Right.
what the value was
At
placed
that-
on this at that time.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about. Okay, thanks.
It's everything remaining equal. If we could say the universe didn't change, then we could predict this out to the penny. The universe changes every moment. That's the problem.
Thank you.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, or the school board members, I've looked at the balance sheet for the Long Beach School District in the past, and their long-term liabilities are in the hundreds of millions of dollars as well. Is that correct?
That is true. So this recognition of all these liabilities is relatively new to the governmental accounting. I say relatively because it changed with the implementation of GASB 34, which was during year 2000. So all these liabilities that you would see, you would have never talked about them in a meeting or anywhere because they were all off the financial statements. And through different pronouncements over the last 22 years, one by one, those categories started to appear on the city's financials. And nowadays, when you're going to look at the financials of all the governments in the country, you would see similar trends. Why? Because it's very easy to borrow when things are not getting reported. So a lot of these things, a lot of agreements that the city entered into were done before this governmental accounting standard board pronouncements made it all very transparent.
Great job, Ina. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ina. Appreciate it. So that concludes the city manager's report.
Thank you. And once you get the screen back here, we'll move on to the regular agenda.
I don't think is your mic on?
Oh, it is now. So once we get the screen down, we'll move on to the regular agenda.
Okay, our first item this evening is a public hearing for an ordinance authorizing financing for the acquisition of tax assessment system, stating the estimated total cost thereof of $146,000, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed 146,000 bonds of said city to finance said appropriation.
All right, and I'll open the hearing for that, and assume we're going to hear from Mr. Flammer.
Right?
Hi, good evening. This is a bond ordinance for the assessment software. The last council meeting, Tyler Technologies gave a presentation, and the council voted to amend the capital plan. This is step 2 in the process of now bonding for the technology, which is a long-term capital asset. Next step would be a contract with Tyler. Our current software is almost 30 years old. It was supposed to be updated. The company got bought, sold, and nothing's been updated. They haven't started working on it yet, and we need to move forward. Our tax levy depends on having viable software. Any questions?
Okay, so just to remind everyone, or anyone that wasn't here at the last meeting, what this is basically taking our current accounting assessment system, which basically runs on Atari 64 in effect, and moving it into the 21st century. And it ties in with our accounting system, which is an added bonus. So with that, any comments or questions from the council members? All right, seeing none, any comments or questions from the public? All right, seeing none, I'll close the hearing.
Okay, on to the regular calendar. Item 1 is an ordinance authorizing financing for the acquisition of a tax assessment system, stating the estimated total cost thereof is $146,000, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $146,000 bonds of said city to finance said appropriation. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to purchase a vehicle for the city's transportation department through New York State Office of General Services.
Brendan, you could step up. I'll start the conversation on this. So basically what this is a new pickup truck for the city garage. 90% of this vehicle is actually paid for from grant funding.
Correct, yes.
And the vehicle was chosen because of its ability to have the best utility for the city in the capacity that it's being bought for. And I do believe that this is if we're going to get the funding, it's every 4 years you have to buy a vehicle, is that correct?
Correct, yes. It has a useful life of every 4 years, so typically we can, after 4 years, we can auction it off or transfer it to a different department that could use it.
So basically what this does here, so the council understands, is the 90% that's paid for from I guess it's federal dollars mostly, right?
Right, 80% is federal, 10% state, and the other 10% is Long Beach.
So the 90% gives us a new vehicle. The vehicle is driven by the bus garage for 4 years. We can then transfer that vehicle to any other place in the city that we can use it to replace an older vehicle and then purchase another vehicle.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from the council?
Yeah, can you just explain to folks a little bit about how the vehicle will be used?
Excuse me?
How the vehicle will be used?
Okay. Well, basically, it's going to be a support vehicle for various supervisors and mechanics for maintenance and management and safety functions. So it's a mid-sized pickup that has four-wheel drive and has towing capability, and it's large enough to store different tools and devices, safety equipment. So during extreme weather conditions, whether it be flooding or icy roads, the dispatchers or the supervisor will go out and judge the roads. Is it safe enough for the bus to continue with its route or not? And also will be used for either roll calls, either breakdowns of maintaining the vehicle, accident investigations, and judging driver performance.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the council? All right, seeing none, any questions from the public? All right, seeing none, thank you, Brendan.
Thank you very much.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 22-23 fiscal year.
So, Joe, I'll start. You can fill in if you'd like. But this is basically a transfer of funds of $70,000 to cover overtime expenses that were utilized to clean the city. Basically, the clean team primarily that was utilized around the city during our weekends and summer months to ensure that when people woke up in the morning that the city was clean, it wasn't filled with garbage from the night before. This is an internal transfer. It's not an additional amount of money that's being put into our budget. It is coming from one budget or two budget lines in the sanitation department to another budget line within the sanitation department. So, Joe, if you want to...
Yeah, I just want to point out, too, that this was a new initiative that took place after the budget was enacted. So that's why we're having this transfer right now.
So also be noted, too...
So if we want to continue this, we should put money in, additional money in the upcoming budget.
Well, that's another piece of this as well. Next year's budget will include this expense so that we will not have to have the movement of money unnecessarily.
But there will be offsetting revenue, right?
Right, so the offsetting revenue, there's an assessment that's actually placed on linear foot of our businesses in town for the cleaning and the removal of the rubbish. On this, the money that will come into the city will offset this expense also, so the assessment will not have to go out to the general public to actually pay for this. I shouldn't say assessment, I should say the levy.
Okay, any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, that's next item.
Just like to make one
sorry.
recommendation. Sorry.
We do have an amendment for this item.
Oh, yes.
Yes, recommending an amendment on this item. We just, to correct an improper budget line referenced in the resolution. It would be, Dave, for you, it's the third line in the resolved, the third budget code in the resolved. The amendment would be to change A1620.51103 to A8160.51103.
Changing the 1620 to 8160.
Right, it's just the first digits.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay. Item 4 is also a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 22-23 fiscal year.
Okay, I think we have an amendment for this item as well.
Another one to recommend on this, get it out of the way right away. It would be the first whereas clause recommending that after ADA compliant Aquatrek ladder appear comma as well as 2 AEDs, 1 adult and 1 pediatric. And then followed by the second whereas clause would be amended to remove Aquatrek ladder and instead read items.
I'll make a motion on that.
Okay.
Second.
Hold on. I'm on the wrong page. I think it's one. Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester. Yes. Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes. Okay.
I can explain it, it's no problem. So basically what this is for the council is the AquaTrack ladder is something to help our less mobile people who swim the ability to get in and out of the water without having to get into the chair lift that is actually at the pool. It's much quicker and they're able to be ambulatory on their own to get in and out as opposed to being sort of suspended by a few wires and dropped into the pool slowly. Obviously, the AEDs, the automatic defibrillators, are a necessity to have there. There's one designed specifically for younger pediatric age people and an adult one as well.
Okay, any questions from the council?
Yes. I just wanted to point out that unfortunately, it was only yesterday that I had asked the team for an itemized schedule for year-to-date of the contingency line, so that I have a better understanding exactly what's going in and out of that account, because it has the moniker contingency. So at this point, I feel I need a better understanding of that line item. I also noted in the materials that the second item was related to appears to be related to the Community Development Block Grant account. I've had some trouble understanding the ins and outs and general reporting of CDBG for several of the fiscal years. So I'm in the process of meeting with the team to make sure that before I vote yes on such items, I can be properly informed. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the council?
Yes, Ron, you said that the AEDs, one was pediatric, one was adult. I didn't know that there was a difference. I know at the beach we use different pads for pediatric.
Different pads and different voltage. There's different.
Because in the invoice they're exactly the exact same, except for the pads. That's why I was wondering.
So the pad will communicate with the device to let the device know how much voltage to use to.
But it's the same machine, just different pads, correct?
I'm not an expert on the AED.
Okay.
At the risk of being wrong, I'll say
we need Harvey here. Okay.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Okay, any other questions from the council? All right, seeing none, any questions from the public? Okay, next item.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into an agreement for the performing of additional fire safety services.
All right, I'd like to propose an amendment in the third whereas clause where it says Maple Avenue Firehouse, it should be Maple Boulevard Firehouse.
So this particular item.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
We got an amendment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Good evening, everyone. Joe Miller, Fire Commissioner. The Fire Department is asking for the funds of $39,088 to be approved for a new fire alarm system in the Maple Boulevard Firehouse. The current system is out of date and not operational at this time. By updating the system, we will meet the requirements of our insurance company. This project falls under a contractual award given by the city to Fire Command. Funds are being made available by Public Works on the line H1022.53101.
Okay, any questions from the council? Seeing none, any questions from the public?
Mr.
Okay.
Hodge.
Oh, Mr. Hodge.
Greetings, James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street here in our great city. It's sad to hear that we have antiquated equipment in the place that keep us safe, but we're not keeping them safe. it's good to hear that we are looking to get it updated, but it's something that should have been done already. And every single building here should be looked at constantly, which it probably is. I'm not sure, but just hearing this, it just takes me a little back because I think it's not working, and I believe it's outdated or whatever, like I said, antiquated. So I think that the council and the city administration should do whatever we can to at least immediately, it's an urgency, that we help save and make safe the people that run in when we run out. They should have every and anything that they need that we can afford, and if we can't afford it, we should find the dollars or a grant anywhere to make sure that the fire department, auxiliary department, and the police have any and everything that they need to perform the emergency services that they need. But again, they should have a fire alarm in whatever system it costs. I'm just here to, again, commend them and thank them and just support them and saying, please get them this system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I'll just point out that's precisely what we're doing here is updating out-of-date equipment. In addition, we've been buying the fire department new bunker gear, which they haven't gotten in quite a long time. We'll be getting a new ladder truck. So we are working diligently to make sure our firefighters have the equipment and that they need to do their jobs safely. So, any questions from the council?
Thank you,
We
Commissioner.
did that already. Any more questions from the public? Seeing none, next item.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Joe.
Item 6 is a resolution appointing a member to the Board of Ethics for the City of Long Beach.
Good. It's a pretty straightforward resolution. The Article 2, Section 18 of the Charter of the City of Long Beach provides a composition of 8 members of the Board of Ethics. One of those members are supposed to be an appointed or an elected official. So this resolution reflects such appointment. After this appointment is made, there'll be 1 vacancy on the Board of Ethics.
Okay, any questions from the council? Seeing none, any from the public? Ms. Egan?
Nora Egan, congratulations, Liz. Mr.
Not
Barrio.
voted on yet.
What?
Not voted on yet.
Oh, well, sorry.
Saying.
So, Mr. Barrios, there's on the website, there's 2 vacancies. Well, there's 3 vacancies, including Liz. But on the website, you can't actually apply to join the board. It's saying that it's kind of full. The only boards that you could join are Advisory for Seniors, Architectural Review, Arts Council, Planning Advisory, Recreation, and the Taxi Cab Board.
Okay, I'm not sure what you're asking me. I'm just...
So
On the website.
on the website, you
Yes.
can't apply to become a member of the Ethics Board.
Okay.
And it's saying that there is 3 positions available on the Ethics Board.
Well, that's actually inaccurate. There's only 2. I don't know why there's a 3rd vacancy there.
I don't know. It's on the website.
But I can talk to IT, figure that part out. And as far as the application process is concerned, I can coordinate with city manager and we can figure out how applications can be submitted.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Ms. Hession?
Eileen Hession, Long Beach. I did see on the website the list of people who are on the board. Are those still the same people?
The appointments would remain the same unless they're replaced or they resign.
Okay, so it would be updated if that happened. And the other question I have is how often does that group meet?
So to my knowledge, the Board of Ethics doesn't regularly meet. They have met in the past, but they don't have regularly scheduled meetings that I'm aware of at this point.
But perhaps they will.
And to read your mind, a meeting is not out of the question in the future. It's something we're all looking at now and seeing how we can better reconstitute or
Great.
just implement the meetings.
Okay,
Gotta
good.
start
Because I
somewhere.
do remember over the years at these meetings, people have come up and said, I want to be on the ethics board. I don't know. I'm glad you're reconstituting it. Thank you.
So just also, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
Well, I just want to clarify something, because I think, I know Mr. Keene, who's not here tonight, comes up and talks about this a lot. I think there's a bit of a misconception on what an ethics board is. So what an ethics board is by state law is they basically enforce General Municipal Law 18. What General Municipal Law 18 basically is it makes sure city employees and elected officials don't have conflicts of interest. That's what its focus is on, meaning I can't work for a company that's trying to get a contract with the city. It's things like that. And annually, the elected officials, and I believe some staff too, have to fill out annual non-disclosure forms that ask you questions of what's your source of income? Do you have any relatives that tried to do business with the city? So it's a conflict of interest board, in effect, that is seeking to make sure there is compliance with a non-conflict of interest. I think people, when they hear, we brought a consultant in to talk about this, because the title is a misconception. I think people think that ethics means, oh, I think somebody did something wrong, or I saw an employee doing something, I want to report that person. That is not legally what an ethics board does. That's probably more the function of something like an ombudsman. So I think we need to clarify that that's what I think people are looking for. This is not it. There's something else. The Nassau County District Attorney does have a public corruption bureau that if people feel there's some shenanigans going on, you can certainly report it to them, but that kind of stuff wouldn't come to an ethics board. So I don't want people to have a misconception of, even if this thing is meeting, you're going to come and you're going to say, you know, Joe Blow did something that I didn't, he looked at me cross-eyed or something. That's not an ethics board.
Thank John, thank you. And that's why I had suggested at one point we call it a compliance board rather than an ethics board.
We've tried to find out legally if we could call it something different. Compliance board is the term that the consultant suggested. We don't know legally if we can do that. We have to find out from the state.
But I do have a question, Rich, and I'm a little confused now. You said there are 2 vacancies. The website says 3 vacancies. And how many members are on the board? My understanding is that there are 9.
8.
And one of them is this corporate counsel is ex officio.
I mean, I read the statute and I read through the materials that I have in my office.
Yeah.
There's no indication that I'm a +1.
Well, it does say 8 appointed by the city council, and you would be an ex officio. So that ex officio gets the position by your office. So you would not be appointed. That's why I'm confused.
Let me see.
It says consists of 8 members appointed by the city council,
Understood.
which you would not be.
Understood. Okay.
And that's why when they said 3 vacancies, I understood that.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
So we need to get
And John, thank you for clearing that up, because there's an awful lot of misconception about what a Board of Ethics is here.
Okay, any other questions from the public? All right, seeing none. Item 7.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the city controller to execute and participate in New York Cooperative Liquid Asset Security Systems Investment Fund.
Good evening again. So as markets change and interest rates went up, it becomes more beneficial for the city to participate in the investment pool like New York Class, where interest rates are probably twice. Thank you. Thank you. They're probably double what we're getting right now in money market accounts in our commercial banks. So investments like that are actually anticipated in our own investment policy, which says in Section 11, it says that any obligation held in custody of a bank or trust company shall be held pursuant to written, no, that's the wrong section. Well, in Section 11, it says that the city controller is authorized to contract for the purchase of investments by participation in a cooperative investment program with another authorized governmental entity pursuant to Article 5G of the General Municipal Law, where such program meets all the requirements set forth in the Office of New York State Controller, and that New York Class is exactly the kind of the cooperative investment program that we're asking City Council to approve for the city to enter into a contract with. Again, interest rates went up. Last year, for fiscal year 2022, city made approximately $350,000 of interest. So as interest rates are going up, hopefully that will be reflected in our fiscal year 2023 actual results of operations and can be anticipated for the next year budget.
Okay, any questions from the council? Seeing none, any questions from the public? Mr. Delori.
Good evening, council members. Mike Delori, Long Beach, New York. Congratulations, Commissioner Walsh, and Karen, thank you for all that you've done in the main Senate role. New York Class. I'm familiar with it, and to maximize the return on investment in idle cash, would you be the one that has to manage all that, or do you have somebody else that you could designate the person to make those investments? It's really not an investment, it's really utilizing, correct me if I'm wrong, idle cash until to be used. And I wasn't planning on speaking about this tonight, but I thought about the capital fund, and if there's excess funds there to be used a week, a month down the road, it's a good offset. So, and I fully support this, by the way. The last question is, would you be the sole signer, or would you have an alternate designee to sign in if you're on vacation or anything like that?
Ina, I think your mic went off.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we have contingencies built into our operations, and if I'm away, there is a person in my office who can sign for me. The reason that we are pursuing this particular contract is because of how flexible it is. We can invest in different accounts with the banks right now that offer also very competitive rates, but where we would have to pay penalties for the early withdrawals. Something like this, the interest rate accrues without any penalties. If we want to withdraw whatever amount, either completely or partially, our deposits with New York Class, we just have to give them 24-hour notice. And whatever interest had accrued to that notice, to the time that we gave that notice, we get to keep it. While if we were to enter, let's say, into agreements for a certificate of deposits, if we decided to withdraw before they mature, we would have to forego whatever interest had accrued to that time. So that's one, to me, that's a very beneficial feature of that. As far as investing capital funds, there is arbitration liability concerns that we have to.
Your time's up, Ina. Your time's up, Ina. Please sit down.
Okay, I'm done.
It's new now, Ina. It's new now for you.
And Mike might just be spying for East Williston, so. All right, any other questions from the public? All right, seeing none, next item.
Item A is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding housing and property rehabilitation and conservation code mortgage in default registry. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held February 7th at 7 p.m. Item 9 is approval of minutes for prior meeting January 3rd, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, on to the voting. So item 1 is an ordinance authorizing financing for the acquisition of a tax assessment system, stating the estimated total cost thereof is $146,000, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $146,000 bonds of said city to finance said appropriation. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
This is going to innovate our system and make a vital function of our city more effective. I vote yes.
Councilmember Lester.
I did vote against the capital budget, so I really can't vote for this. Since this is a part of the capital budget, I would vote no.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to purchase a vehicle for the city's transportation department through New York State Office of General Services. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 22-23 fiscal year. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 4 is also a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 22-23 fiscal year. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Abstain.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into an agreement for the performing of additional fire safety services. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution appointing a member of the Board of Ethics for the City of Long Beach. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
There you go.
Nobody's going to second it?
Can I second?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Second? Okay. Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the city controller to execute and participate in New York Cooperative Liquid Asset Security System Investment Fund. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
And item 8 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding housing and property rehabilitation and conservation code mortgage and default registry. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Ray, I'm just so disappointed in this that that this got reverted for after all your team's hard work. But I vote yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
City Manager's monthly personnel report has been filed by the city clerk. Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember. On the wrong page here. Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
In honor of ex-councilman Delory, yes. Okay. And first up, Ron Paganini.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Good evening, council. Can't see you. And Mr. Walsh, congratulations.
Thank you.
What I'm about to say, this information was off the rolls of the city of Long Beach on the matter of overtime. As of January, the beginning of January, for the first 6 months of our fiscal budget, we have gone over in overtime. In other words, whatever was budgeted, we went over, close to $2 million. And some employees are making, from what I was told firsthand, over $350,000 at this moment. If that's true, it could be $4 million by the end of our fiscal year. Where are we getting these millions to fill the fiscal hole? Another question is, why is this happening? If this is the fact, where does the taxpayer stand? Another 8% increase? Maybe more, I don't know. The taxpayer was looking for the city to maybe hold the line on the New York State tax cap at under 2%, simply because the Haberman levy will kick in this year. This is a lot to hold, to think about. I'm going to stop at this point. And if you want to answer me, you can. If not, I can bring it up at the next meeting and you'll have answers within due respect. It's a lot. And I was shocked. So I'm done. If you want to answer me, you don't, say you don't want to answer me, I'm going back to my seat.
I'll address a piece of it for you. That I'm not sure where you got your over 2 million from. I'm not sure where that came from, but there is one area that, and you kind of touched on it without naming it, the fire department is an issue right now because we are supposed to have somewhere between 16 and 20 paramedics to be able to man the ambulances. The problem we have is we have the lowest salary in the metropolitan area for paramedics. So as a result, all of our paramedics have quit except one. So we are backfilling the ambulances with firefighters who make much more money. We are in the process of negotiating with the union to be able to adjust the paramedic salary so we could hire paramedics that don't then go and quit 3 months later because Westchester or somewhere else is offering them more money. So right now it's basically a negotiation issue with the union.
Well, you know, it's partially right what you said. I investigated this whole thing. The paramedics were promised raises at the very beginning. It never came about, so that's how you lost the paramedics. Then as the EMTs filled in, one of them was a personal friend of mine. He started them with $17.57 an hour, promised to basically give them a raise. I mean, they should get $30 an hour. The paramedics should get $60 an hour. That's the going rate.
So as a former vice president of CSCA,
Yeah.
you know better than anyone, we have to comply with the contract.
We can't unilaterally give
We
them
just
raises.
can't unilaterally say,
It's against the law, it's against the contract.
I know it was in
And
the
if we-
contract, but I thought that the fire department would work with the city. I'm just saying.
you would have to take
Listen,
that up with
we
the
have
fire
co-
department.
I was at CSCA.
We are.
We had a lot in our contract in CSCA, and we broke our contracts. Let me tell you, we broke our contracts, and I'll see Mr. Walsh
Yeah.
about that. But
Rob,
I'm just saying, it's greedy.
Yeah, when the meeting's over, be happy to talk to you more about this.
I have an appointment to see Mr.
Oh, okay,
Walsh.
good, yeah.
But I'm just saying that there's something wrong here, and we cannot.
Well, we agree, and we're trying to fix it.
Oh, I just want to let the people know that we're in trouble.
Mr. Paganini?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't think you're going to find a council member here that feels that $350,000 plus for a fireman is a good idea for the city. We are,
I agree.
Ms. Paganini, let me just say this. Because we're in negotiations with the fire department, we really can't divulge anything that's on the table, and we really can't talk about it. But I can tell you that the city is not in the like mind to continue with those types of payments when the new contract, if we ever get one settled, which I'm sure something will happen sooner or later, we'll be fixing it.
Well,
Okay.
I'm sure you will in time, but we don't have any time, as you know it.
So, yeah, when you make your appointment, we'll be able to fill it in. Crystal Lake.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you very much, Crystal.
You're welcome. First, of course, I'm going to request the status of the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project. Secondly, the I think $2 million was allotted previously for park renovations, Magnolia and Leroy Conyers, and I'd just like to know when that work might begin. Secondly, in regards to the Tideflex valves, could there be a public list given online showing the locations of all the Tideflex valves? Are they operable, inoperable, the maintenance schedule, and their life expectancy?
So with regard to the Tideflex valves, these things are all over the city. And Joe Fabrizio has been working with the work that was done down the west end. A lot of them were replaced, and a bunch of them were replaced on the east end as well. We're in the process now of scoping out that work so that we can actually identify the ones that are going to need to be fixed.
Okay, and could that information possibly be made public in the future?
When we put out our RFP for this actual work, a lot of that will be included in that document. So we're going to identify the scope of work that we're looking to have done.
Okay, and thank you for that information. And in regards to the draft comprehensive plan, there were numerous meetings. How many more meetings might occur? When might the draft version be available for public review?
Again, John, I thought it was February 7th, John, was the first meeting that we're going to try and do?
The public, I want to say input or review sessions are going to begin sometime early in February.
Yeah.
We will have 3 or 4 of those before we start the public input process with the council. And that'll be probably 2 meetings with the council before a final vote.
So Ms. Lake, the actual meetings have begun in that it was a public working session that took place up here, and discussions were, we had the plan up on the board. We didn't give it to hand out to anybody because it's still in draft format. As soon as it gets more finalized, we'll be giving it out to the public to actually look at it as well. So it's something that we're working towards getting at least a consensus of the council members and their input before it becomes finalized.
Okay, so that occurred in the city council work session?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That was last week.
And also, I know previously, the reports,
Can you just step up to the microphone?
previously, City Hall would have copies available for the public.
It was in an internal draft. It wasn't.
I know, but in the future?
Yeah.
So could these reports be, or, even if it's for a small fee, be made available to the public for pickup? That would be a great help to the residents. And the status of the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project, please?
Joe, start date on that?
Thank you.
How are you? We're in the process of getting the contract signed with the general contractor, which is a joint venture between Basilico and Beauvais, and also with the electrical contractor, which is Hogland. That should probably be signed within the next week or so, and then we basically give them what's called the notice to proceed, which is really the golden ticket. That's when the contract starts. So that should definitely be signed by the end of this month, the notice to proceed, and then they have 1 year and 10 months to complete the project. So let's just say February 1st is, I would say, a tentative start date. But you won't really see any work in that first month or two. There's going to be a lot of meetings. There's a long lead time on ordering the steel bulkhead material and parts associated with the pump station. But by the end of this month, they'll have the contract signed, they'll have the notice to proceed, and we'll get going. Oh, and just one quick update on Magnolia and Leroy Conyers Park. That was awarded December 20th. The contractor, Play Sites Plus, has signed contract. I just had a recent meeting with him, and they have ordered all the material from Magnolia and Leroy Conyers, and apparently it's going to get here quicker than we expected. So you probably will see construction probably in, I would say, March.
That was $1 million, right?
It was $1 million. It was $1 million, and we have a $1 million grant for that as well from the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York. So we're going to get reimbursed for the whole thing, but which is fantastic. So if everything goes well, we should have that built. I'm cautious to say Memorial Day, but definitely by July 4th. Thank you.
And, Joe, just
Sure.
to clarify, will there be any information made available for public review regarding the North Shore Critical Infrastructure?
I think we'll have to work with public relations with John and the city manager's office, and we could definitely, have some sort of daily or monthly updates.
Maybe what
Not
we
daily,
could do
but
is,
maybe monthly updates on the website or something like that.
Mr. Lake, what we might be able to do for you is, like, once we award the contract and they come up with their milestones and timeframes, we might be able to take that and then come up with some sort of a bullet pointed by this date, this date, this date. If you give us a little bit of time to get that done,
Yeah, like the first
we'll
thing-
put it up on the
Once
on
we
the
get the
website.
schedule, that will be the first thing we'll post. once, and that probably won't come till
Maybe
sometime
we
in
could do a
February.
presentation at the MLK Center as well.
Yeah, I spoke to our consulting firm, DeVerk and Bartolucci Consulting Engineers, and I mentioned to them if they could, on our behalf,
Yeah.
with me, of course, and do a little presentation on the project, and of course they will at some point. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hodge.
James Hodge, 95, James Hodge right here in the city of Long Beach, Nevada to Maple, from the bay to the ocean. I just wanted to thank the city council for coming to Martin Luther King Day. And as I always say, this is nothing new. City manager, you know, you're new into the position, but like you said, you're not new into administrative work and doing what you do. A lot of people get like baptized on Martin Luther King Day because they start remembering the dream. There's always so much more than a dream. I think he died when he started telling people more than the dream. He was assassinated 4468, but the dream, the man is gone, but the dream lives on in me. So it seems like the city council could not meet when we were having these comprehensive plan meetings throughout the year, but somehow we can go to the MLK Center on Martin Luther King Day and speak about how great the center is, how great Martin Luther King is. The center has been around since 1968. In 1980, that was built there, thanks to the hard work of Mrs. Oldham and so many others. It seemed like the speeches were good, and this council loves Martin Luther King. And the city manager, you know, you weren't in there when the action of eviction that this city has that organization, and now they have them in district court. I believe in Hempstead, eviction, meaning, you know, somewhat get out, but maybe we'll negotiate your terms of staying. So I want to understand, do you really care about the dream, or is it just on a special holiday? Is it really a part of what you mean? Is it real? Is it reality? Well, it was good to hear you, President, say that maybe we can have a presentation over there at the MLK with the critical infrastructure project. Well, comprehensive plan we've been working on for many years. You've just had several meetings around the whole city and not one meeting in the area that it will immediately affect. So I asked this city again, please don't just let Martin Luther King and all his life just come to you during the month of January. I love all of you, but we got to speak truth to power. I love all of you. Look at me and smile, Roy. You don't have to look so mad. All right? So, again, to the city manager, I thank all of you for marching. Thank you for being a great attorney, Roy. Thank you, Karen, for, you know, marching, and all of you. But again, let us look at the organization and what they do. I believe that the city manager mentioned he's very aggressive in what he wants. I don't think you have to explain that to anybody after this meeting tonight. You're good at what you want, and you fight for what you want. And that's what I've saw since you've been here. And I think there probably will be changes in different ways in your position. So again, thank you for your time. And again, let us support the Long Beach Martin Luther King Center and work together as a community.
Okay, thank you, James.
Mind if or you want to go first?
No.
So I want to address a couple of things that you said to add a little bit more context to the conversation. I don't want to get into the specific issues that I've been informed of more completely since I've taken this office. But I do want to state this. It is not necessarily that the city is seeking to remove the incorporated portion of that center. And I can assure you that it is not the intention of this council or this city to reduce programming for that area or to actually affect that area in a negative way. So without getting into the specifics of what the issues are that have caused the city to get to the point where we are today, I will tell you that you're not talking to a deaf body, you're not talking to a body or to a city administration that feels as if the value of the incorporated Martin Luther King is valueless, okay? What it is we have to do what Mr. King said, and that is to put our differences aside and to figure out a way to come out with an amicable resolve that works for both parties. It cannot be one-sided. That's all I'm telling you for now, okay?
My time is up, but that's more than I got for a whole year. And please, when you speak, City Manager, try not to speak for everybody because you may be different. Please, you just gave more than anybody has ever heard about the situation. And not saying everybody's bad, they're not.
James,
but again,
the
don't
one-
speak for everybody.
All right, so thank you, James.
John
But
ain't got
you've been
nothing to
heard.
say to me. Like I said, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Good night.
Good night. And while you're going back to your seat, James, for what it's worth, just speaking for myself, I am no Reverend King scholar, but there are two of his passages that I have committed, locked in my head, that I carry in my heart and believe at all times. And that is, we may have all come on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. And the other one is, we have to learn to live together as brothers or perish as fools.
Let's live together, brother.
So, thank you. All right, LaRon West.
Of course, the mic will be off with me. Okay. Grace and peace, LaRon West, coming into from 643 Shore Road, apartment A2, Long Beach, New York. I just come to I just feel like we are in a place in the year that I agree with all of you gentlemen, and we need to work together. So I just want to first pray for the new councilman, Commissioner Walsh. Congratulations, sir. And then I want to pray for the public so that we can all work together, whether we disagree or disagree. All right? So, dear precious Heavenly Father, Abba Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Dear precious Heavenly Father, we come before you, Lord, asking you, Father, to give the new commissioner, as well as all the commissioners, all the clergy, all the staff, Father, divine wisdom and revelation, Father. Asking you, God, Father, for each and every article, each and every quota, Father, that's on the paper, Lord, that you give them wisdom and understanding in the correct way. Show them how to get through each and pivot through each and every trial, each and every dilemma, Father, that needs to go forth so that the Long Beach can be what it be that you desire it to be. Heavenly Father, I ask you, Lord, according to your word, Father, ask you, Lord, Father, with the public, Lord, have your way, Lord God. In Jesus' name, Lord, I'm asking you, Lord God, to break every stronghold, break every way, Father. Help us to work together, Father. But Lord, asking you, Lord God, for every unclean, demonic thought, evil thought, Father, everything that's coming against us, whether seen and unseen, Lord, asking you, God, just to have your way in each and every one of their lives, each and every person behind me, Lord. For touch their souls, touch their minds, touch their relatives. Anything that's sickness, anything from sickness to death to trials and tribulations, Lord God. Help them through it. And if they don't know you, Lord God, in Jesus' name, help them to get to know you, Lord, because we are in critical times. It's not a by accident where that there is different weather patterns. Father, let them hear your voice, Father, as Sister Crystal Lake and James Hodge a few weeks ago said that is God trying to warn us? So asking you, Lord God, just to have your way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay. Thank you, and we'll take all the help we can get. Helen Dorado Alessi.
Hi, and Happy New Year. I haven't been here in a bit, been a little busy. Congratulations, Liz, for getting on the ethics board.
I'll be calling.
You'll be calling? Okay. Karen, thank you for all your hard work. Commissioner, welcome. I wish you much luck. John, fantastic being president. Very happy about that.
Thank you.
I'm here to talk about language access. Some of you may know that I'm the executive director of Long Beach Latino Civic Association. My name is Helen Dorado Alessi, and it's a very important piece of work that we all do together in terms of working together, and that is being able to understand what is happening right here in front of us for all of the population of Long Beach. As you know, New York State Governor Governor Hochul has increased the number of languages to be translated and interpreted from 6 to 12. And there is a group that we are a part of, the New York Immigration Coalition, that will be pushing for it to become 20 languages. If we want full participation, civically, politically, educationally, and the rest, people must understand each other. And while populations are trying to learn English as quickly as they can, it's not as easy as one might think. So, a couple of things. I have in my hands 247 signed petitions by Long Beach community members who would like to have a conversation about language access. First of all, updating what's on the website, which refers to a 2013 census, community updates, information, and we now have the 2020 census that we all work so hard on. So that information should be updated, as well as I wonder if we could put the information on the side here in Spanish as well as in English. I don't think that's a heavy lift. That's pretty easy to do. I'm trying to find things that are easy to do but really impactful. Website on the phones, I cannot find where you can switch that into Spanish. Somebody more technologically advanced could teach me. That would be fantastic. Most of our community members use phones. They don't use desktops. To be able to sign up for the good and welfare portion of this, if that could be in Spanish, that would be fantastic. And other languages. And then lastly, we have this community information sheet in English only, and it has all kinds of really important emergency information. So I don't want to go on any longer. I think I've been pretty clear as to what we're looking to happen, and I'm open for a conversation. Thank you so much.
Great. Helen, just one question. I don't know if you know the answer to this. The last census said we had about, and census accuracy is always a little questionable, but about 15% of our population is Hispanic. What percentage would you say are not, cannot get by in English?
So that's a tricky question because, number one, I think the question should be, what language do they understand the information better in? Because what happens is, like the information we got today, all of that about what the city owes and what the city does is complicated in English for, high school and college educated people. But for folks who maybe just arrived, or for people who had 30 years and still can't quite get the grasp, have gone to the Adult Learning Center 3 times and still can't really get the English, You know, it's like, where will they understand best? And they're taxpayers too, so I know you get this, that, you know, whatever you can do, so.
Okay.
Helen, I had a conversation with Mr. McNally the other day, and the city has recently obtained a new, what is it, a copier? So, knock on wood, sage this place, because obviously equipment breaks down around here. It translates into Spanish and other languages, so I'm going to request that when the agenda comes out, that we run a couple of copies off and have it over there, so next time you come, it'll be there.
It'd be great to review the policy that's in place right now.
That's been there since we
Since
worked really hard.
2015, right, is that policy. And I so appreciate anything the city's doing because we want to work together.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Helen. All right, based on the handwriting, it says Nora Ejan, but I know it's Egan.
Sorry, I got distracted when I was signing in. So I just have a thing for Mr. Walsh. I'm sorry, Nora Egan. I was driving down to the meeting, and I was running a little bit late. But I come from East, and so waiting at the light at Park Avenue and Long Beach Road, somebody went through the light, and they just really nearly got like smashed. Is there anything you can do as police commissioner and city manager to talk to whoever about doing something, because it's so dangerous?
Sorry about that. So I've actually called over to the commissioner of the Department of Public Works for Nassau County and held a conversation with him. That entire stretch of roadway there is up for redesign, especially that intersection.
Okay.
I've asked them, they have a tendency at times to do things in their own vacuum, if you will. I've asked them, when it comes time for them to start drawing up the plans and the consideration for that, to make sure that they speak with us and the police department here, because we have particular insight that we can give them on ideas for how to better control that roadway. The other thing you should know is that part of the monies that we have received from New York State is going to go towards re-signing a large portion of Park Avenue with particular attention to the Long Beach Road, Long Beach Boulevard intersection with Park Avenue.
Okay.
I agree with you, it's not a very well-designed intersection, and if you ever try to cross the street there...
I do, every day, twice a day. But it's horrific, like just seeing that person right in front of me. And I saw it. And the guy coming on on Long Beach, he was very good to actually stop. But I'm sure everybody's heartbeats was going. But thank you for that.
I actually do put officers there down in the police department. We focus a lot of attention there to reduce accidents and to try to calm traffic down as well. So I hope you've been seeing some of that too.
I haven't.
We've written quite a bit of summonses out there, and we'll check seatbelts, we'll check registrations, we'll check to make sure people are stopping, and not being a quote-unquote aggressive driving type of summonses.
Okay,
so we've been working on it. Thank you.
And then, so that was just a sidebar. So I've missed the last meeting, so I just want to follow up on something. So when I came in, maybe there was an announcement at the last meeting, I noticed the bathrooms are getting done. Didn't we just spend money on that?
Did you what?
Didn't we just spend money on the bathrooms in the last year? On the sixth-floor bathrooms?
These bathrooms here were not completed. They were actually in a very poor state of repair. So I believe we used community block development money to actually get those bathrooms under construction and fixed. So those bathrooms were not fixed. It was the ones downstairs.
They were just prettied up, but we did spend some money, no?
Yeah, we painted them, we did a little work and stuff like that. This is actually a reconstruction of those bathrooms to make them in alignment with the other bathrooms on the other floors that have been redone.
Okay, as long as they're not wasting money.
Yeah.
And then, so Karen McGinnis, in November you had announced that Mr. Bendo, Lester, and Ms. Postorelli would be on a search committee for a new city manager. So, in the meantime, she has left. So where were we with that search committee from November to last week's meeting? And now where are we from January 3rd until today? on our city manager search. And there is no job listed for city manager. Nothing against you, Mr. Walsh, but there is no job posted for the position of city manager. No, I know not yet, but the position is available.
So we're in the process. So right now, the search committee is Karen and myself. And what we're doing is we are compiling lists right now of executive search firms that specialize in municipal governments, local municipal governments. I think we have about 30 or 40 we've compiled so far. What we are probably going to do is put out a request for information about their services and their fees. In the interim, we will start developing a profile. We're not going to get too specific because that's why we're hiring an expert to do that for us. You know, our past experience, the last go-around, this would have been back around 2018 when we were doing a city manager search. What we found is these companies like to come in and interview council members, staff. They may interview some of the public to develop a profile of the type of candidate the city needs. And once they do that, then they can put together a job description. We did try doing it on our own at one point. We posted it on Indeed and job boards and stuff. That was a very inefficient process. We were getting people that were cashiers at delis applying to be the city manager.
I got it. Okay.
The other thing we found is for some reason we had an inordinate number of people that were Wall Street financial people that thought that translated to running a city government. So we feel it's better probably to use some professional services that have networks that we don't necessarily have. We've already, Councilwoman McGinnis has had some conversations with the New York Conference of Mayors about this to get some guidance from them. So we're chugging along.
Okay, keep chugging. Thanks.
Okay. All right, Ms. Solomon Jakowitz.
My name is Beryl. I live at 128 West Penn. Happy New Year. Super excited about the Magnolia Playground. It's on our corner, and my son, who tried very to stay quiet, would have been excited if he was able to absorb the information. But I'm here tonight trying to maybe take a different approach, have a conversation to understand, you know, where we are and if we're going to bring to a public hearing the opportunity to talk about opting in for cannabis dispensaries within our borders. You know, the update for those who don't spend all of your time in the cannabis world is that we are open and operational in the state of New York. Last time I checked, the sky hadn't fallen, so I think that's good. So December 29th, we opened for adult use sales in downtown Manhattan. 28 licenses were given, expected another 125 to be granted before the end of this month. And just to reiterate that from a timeline perspective, experts anticipate that the application process will be open late spring, early summer. So if Long Beach wants an opportunity, you know, a kick at the can, quite honestly, now's the time to move because a local operator needs to identify real estate. I know there probably are some really good questions about, for example, where can we put it? And what do we do about parking? And I'm super open, interested, eager. I've provided so much information and would love to have a dialogue about what the actual answers are to those questions if the council wants to have it. I think, you know, now is the time. So here's my opportunity to sort of ask again. You know, we spent a lot of time talking about our budget. We spent a lot of time talking about, you know, how we can make sure that our community stands the test of time for our grandchildren. Whether we have a dispensary or dispensaries or not, cannabis is in our community, and we need to talk about it. We need to talk about how to keep our kids safe, and the best way to keep them safe is to have the conversation out in the open. Sweeping it under the rug isn't going to get us anywhere. So if there are any questions, I would love to be a source of information, continue to be a source of information now in private, whatever the council sees as the best path forward.
Okay, thank you, Beryl. You know some of this already, but some of the council members went and we visited the dispensary over on Route 110.
Yeah,
in
more,
Farmington.
yes.
Right. And we just met some of the reps from the union, and so we spent time. The other thing we're doing now is we're talking with the Cannabis Control Board. We're in the middle of setting up a meeting with them. They're going to come down here and do an educational session for the council members to answer some of the questions you kind of just brought up that we do have. So we're not sitting on our hands.
President Bendo, could we get some dates on the calendar for hearings?
Possibly, I guess it depends. We'll have to set the meeting up with the Cannabis Control Board, and then we could take it from there.
Okay. I just want to reiterate, understanding there are lots of calendars and lots of schedules. So if you really want to have an opportunity, the opportunity is to lead. And obviously that takes an enormous amount of courage, and I certainly understand that, but I think it would be an incredible opportunity. So if I can continue to be of any service, you all know how to find me.
Thank you.
Congratulations in your article in Canada.
All right, and Rena Hall.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for giving me... No, it's closer. Sorry. Yes? I've never done this before, so I'm a little nervous.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're off to a good start. Don't worry.
My name is Rena Hall. I'm actually from Rockville Center, but my parents live here in Long Beach, and they're unable to come tonight. So I just wanted to be here to represent them and just ask a few questions, and hopefully you have answers for me, or maybe the next meeting I can get them. My parents live at 965 West Park Avenue, and I'm here to ask some questions about the $6 million storm pump project that was implemented last year. And I know you probably know my parents very well, as I know my dad has called and mom has called many times. With that being said, throughout that process, I tried to keep them positive, thinking that there would be a positive impact for the citizens of Long Beach. But unfortunately, that was not the case with this last storm. Like I said, throughout the process, I tried to be optimistic, but this storm created more flooding or equivalent flooding to Sandy when it should not have. It should have done quite the opposite. And I was just wondering if there was any success in any of the other areas where the pumps were located. If so, if you can share that with us, feedback from any other residents. Because like I said, my family's home received flooding worse than they did in Hurricane Sandy, which is crazy to me after spending $6 million. The second question is, has anybody investigated the fact that when the pump was built, they tested it, and to know that it went on, there was a clicking noise. That clicking noise never went on when the actual storm hit this past time. So just curious if we have any information on that, and why that did not happen. My third question is to check, there's a valve at the bulkhead so that when the storm ended, the water never actually went back. Is that working? Is there something wrong with that? Why did the water ever recede back? And my final question is to ask about the sewers. Typically, before a storm, the sewers on the block are checked or cleaned, and they weren't this time. So just curious as to why that didn't happen this time as well. So thank you for your time, and do you have any answers for me?
Joe, I don't know if you have any of you want to talk about how the system performed?
Do you want to just email your question?
Pretty short. Everybody knows them by name.
I think so too.
Is your father Tony?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yes, hi. My name is Joe Fabrizio. I'm familiar with your father's plight and the neighbor across the street, their plight. We've had many a dialogue regarding this pump station. Just so you know, and Ron had some really good points about the storm before, is this was elevation 5 high tide with a 3-foot storm surge. All bulkheads at the street ends are roughly elevation 9. Your father's bulkhead is extremely low. It's probably like in the area of 5 to 6. So what's going to happen is when you have a situation when you have a high tide combined with a storm surge, you could, no matter what you have at that street end, in those, like I would say catastrophic type cases, you're going to have the water basically circling around, and basically, it's a circle. The water's coming in around the bulkhead. So if you have a typical...
And really, it feels like the
This-
situation was worse than ever before. It should have been better.
Well,
It should be helping.
well,
Not for the average storm when it's raining. No, it's supposed to help.
But there was, it was, I'm sorry, it was a big storm on the 23rd.
Yeah, let me just, and I live in Rockville Center also, so let me just tell you my experience that day. That storm hit at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was trying to get here. I could not get here because I could not get down Austin Boulevard, and I could...
I know that Island Park got killed, I know, but my parents' basement was destroyed again, and I was sitting there and I was looking at throwing everything all over again. And to be fair, they weren't treated kindly during that whole process, and I believe no one really got back to them during the situation.
I would disagree with you with that because I've had a lot of dialogue with them.
I know you had a lot of dialogue,
And,
and I know it was involved, and believe me, I know those
yeah.
stories.
I mean, I've spoke to Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 11, Channel 7, Channel 12.
As we all should have, because the way my family found out about that project was by workers being outside their home. Like, that wasn't the right way to go about it initially, to be honest. And that's the truth. And then you got off on the wrong foot, and now here we are. But now we got a storm that I guess we weren't expecting, and it really didn't do its job.
But just to finish my story, so I tried at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was basically trying to get here through Austin Boulevard and through Long Beach Road. You could not get through at all. By the time I got here, which was about 9:30, 10 o'clock, that's when my vehicle was physically able to get through. That street was dry. There was not an ounce of water on that street. So within 2.5 hours, where everyone else was flooded, this street was absolutely dry. So it did work the way it's supposed to work. And just so you know, this pump station isn't the cure-all for flooding. It is absolutely not the cure-all for flooding. To do flood mitigation, you have to raise bulkheads, you have to have pump stations, you have to have roads redesigned and elevated, which we also did over there. You have to have clean drainage, you have to do house elevations. So it's not just one component. Like, that station is not going to solve all flooding problems in the West End. It's just not. But it's going to help in, I would say, 98% of the time.
And with that being said, they haven't had really flooding problems in their area, aside from Hurricane Sandy. I don't think they ever had, so that's where the frustration comes in.
No, I'm sorry to hear that they were flooded, and yeah.
3-4 feet of water in the basement. So, you told me it was successful in one street. What was that street again? You said the pump was successful in one area?
I didn't say that, actually. Oh, no, I said, no, Park Avenue, New York to Nevada. The whole thing was dry. When I came here at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, because that was when I was able to get in, it was actually
So, Joe,
dry.
why don't we, because this was the last one, we'll end the meeting, but we can stay and talk.
Oh, absolutely,
I'm
yes.
just saying, because it looks, is that Tony Jr. back there? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So, well, hang on. So,
I think it's also important, though, for the public to hear. I'm not being fresh, I promise, but this is important information, and this is, I know it's a grant, it's from taxpayer money, they're all paying for these things, and it really, my parents lost their washer, their dryer, their bathroom again, and after this project. So I do think it's important for the public to hear. I'm sorry that you want to end the meeting, but I don't think it's,
Well,
if you have a question,
I understand.
people should be able to answer. I mean,
well, it's fine, they can stay and listen. I'm just saying, we have to treat everyone fairly and the same. So we can stay, yes, so we can stay and have the conversation. I'm just saying we're going to
Yeah, I have no problem
officially
talking
end the
to you
meeting.
as
We
long
can
as you
stay and
want.
have the conversation.
But they weren't in good welfare, that's the only reason he's saying that. But if,
So-
I welcome you to come up and talk to me
So-
as...
That's it.
No, we had, we had personnel there at 6:30 in the morning till the storm ended late in the afternoon. And no, we are in charge of the pump station. No.
All right.
Joe.
No. No.
So, Joe.
Joe.
No.
Joe, let's end the meeting. You can
Okay.
stay and have the conversation, that's fine. I'm just saying, officially, we're going to, so
Yeah,
thank you
if
for
you wanna
coming.
talk, I'll talk to you.
And please.
I understand.
Before we leave this evening,
Oh, yes.
before we leave, I'd ask everybody
Sorry, just one moment.
for a moment to take a seat, bow your heads, and where was a tragic loss of life that affected this city, and I think it's only appropriate that we hold a moment of silence for Garrett Hagan. Thank you, and please know that our thoughts are with his family at this time.
And thank you, everyone. Get home safely.
Thank you.
Yeah, now I'm not.